So welcome back to the workshop. Here's another weekly workshop update. It's been another very busy week. So I've been in the UK again working on the steak knives, which will lead me right through to the summer, just working on this batch of knives. So I've been speaking to Bayside Engineering and they've been helping me out with laser cutting a bunch of these knives. So I've got about 200 of these knives now cut. So as I say, that will last me throughout the whole summer. Especially for the Indiegogo campaign to get these knives to the people who backed. So Bayside Engineering, great company, not huge, but good enough to give very good service. So I spoke to a gentleman there called Luke, who took the time out to show me around their laser. They've got a 3,200 watt TLF laser. And for those who haven't seen them, they work very much like a CNC machine. So they have an X and a Y axis, but instead of having a cutting tool, they have this laser. So 3,200 watts. Luke was telling me how that can cut through 50 millimeters of steel. So super powerful. So here we are at Bayside, and this is Luke here just entering the details into the machine. So here's the control screen. And now we can see it actually cutting out the profile of each knife. Now this is really cool. So it's got an auto loading system. So you can preload the stock onto a separate bed, and once that first bed is finished cutting, it will load in the next bed into the cutting bay. It's just really super cool. So now I'm back in France, back in the workshop with these amazing knives, and it's really nice to have them in my hand. So these took 6 months of design and iteration to get what we have here. So we've got the weight reduction slots. We've got the pinholes already cut out with the laser. Now these were purposely cut 0.5 of a millimeter smaller than needed, because so then I can ream them on the drill machine just to make sure that they're the perfect size, and we'll get rid of any burrs. Some of them, especially when we're setting up the machine, because there's a lot of controls and fine detail that you can change with that laser. So the first few weren't perfect, but it's not a real problem. So this one here, I don't know if you can just hear that. There's a slight burr on there. Small enough to really pick off with your finger, but I'm just going to run those through on the grinder, and we should be fine with that. So I've got 200 knives to make. So what I've made is this sort of preparation board. So I can load up 12 knives at a time. We're going to start with deburring, and you can see me here deburring knives, just running a very quick pass with the grinder. They'll then go on to reaming to make sure those holes are the perfect size for my pins. Then countersunk, just to hold a bit more epoxy around the pin. And then we'll go into the heat treat and temper. I've had a mail call this week where I've ordered a few more blocks of aluminium as the knives are stainless steel, they'll be plate quenched. So I've got my original blocks that are still there in my vise. But the way that works is that I put these in the vise, put the knife in, and I squeeze them together, and this takes the heat out of the knife, making it hard. But I've been looking at the way other people have been doing this, and Jeremy from Simple Little Life has this really great way of doing things. So he uses his table vise. Table vise, table vise, every morning you meet me, small and blue, long and true, you look happy to meet me. And rather than have them vertically doing that sort of thing, they are horizontal, which is really nice, because then you can just put your knife in, lower the vise, it takes the heat away very quickly, open it back up, on with the next knife. So I'm going to do a few videos on that heat treat process for these knives, because it's quite detailed and I think people may learn from it. So once the heat treat is done, it's then going to be obviously hand ground to form the bevels. From hand grinding, it's then going to be on to handling. A few people have asked me why I always heat treat before grinding in the bevels. Now, I mean, there's many ways to make a knife, but I generally make kitchen knives which are very thin stock. So I normally find that if I'm grinding bevels before heat treat, there's more of a chance of a slight twist or a warp. So what I like to do is fully harden and temper, and then grind away to the bevels, because we've got, there's very little stock here to to use. This is 2.5 millimeters. So yeah, I don't think there's any real point in grinding before a heat treat. So that's what I've been up to this week back in the UK. As I say, this summer I will be working solely on these steak knives. But I think that may drive me a bit crazy. 200 knives, exactly the same, may drive me a bit crazy. So I saw a video this week with Jeremy, again from Simple Little Life. If you don't follow him, go and follow, he's great. But he's doing this build along challenge. So he's doing it's a simple kiridashi with simple hand tools, and he's going to do that over a number of weeks. So I think I'm going to join along as well. So I'll just have a couple of hours on a Friday afternoon, just to sort of unwind from the steak knives to be doing something different. Where I'll make this kiridashi along with Jeremy, and I'm sure many, many others who will be doing the build along. So that's it for this week. So stay sharp, and I'll just see you next time. Thank you to both Even Heat and Tormac for their continued support.